Hello and welcome to Alexandra Marshall Live, the show where we speak to the people who have the courage to challenge the suffocating and coercive authoritarian ideas that appear to have taken over Western civilization. What happened to the Enlightenment? And what has happened to the spirit of science? Joining us is the Australian political commentator, scientist and former professor at James Cook University who has published over 100 papers in international science journals and helped many Australians complete their PhD work. I speak of Peter Ridd, who joins us now. Welcome to the show, Peter.
Thanks very much.
Well, Peter, I first came across you on my editor, Rowan Dean's Outsiders program, where you were engaged in this insane conflict regarding freedom of scientific speech with a university over your work. And even though you lost the battle, you've become a sought-after writer and speaker. Did you expect to end up as a headline name in Australia's publications fighting against the establishment?
No, I sort of knew that eventually I'd probably be chucked out of the university, but I never knew when it was going to happen. And in fact, I did this interview with Alanjones, actually. And when I walked out of the interview, I had no idea that actually it was going to cause a bit of a furore. But anyway, I think what's happened is that there's a whole lot of things that are happening all at the same time to a lot of different people. And mine just happened to be a case that people wanted to donate money to try to do the legal action, and they wanted a fight to actually challenge this stuff.
Well, I think also, Peter, the idea of freedom of expression and scientific liberty is something that the Australian people still uphold and desire. Do you think that your particular fight that you had was sort of a crucible for what's going on in the wider community, and perhaps that's why people were looking to you for guidance?
Well, I don't think they were looking to me for guidance. Essentially, look, I got fired for saying there was not enough quality assurance on Great Barrier Reef science, and I was able to give some, examples where there's just no ifs, no buts about it. There's definitely a problem there. You then get fired and people say, well, that's unfair. He's doing his job. We have this thing, freedom of speech. People really value that. And then when we put our hand up and say, well, in order to take this ultimately to the High Court, we're going to need a huge amount of money. And ultimately we raised over $1.5 million. People just wanted to contribute, not because I was anything special, I don't think. It's just that here was a fight which we could have. They could chuck $100 into it, and here we have a fight, and people want to fight.
Well, you essentially said, good news, the Great Barrier Reef is alive, and the collective mob came after you with pitchforks. Shouldn't your fellow scientists be happy that the reef is teeming with life?
Yes, they should be. And since then, after I first got into trouble in 2017 or 18, and since then it's just got better and better. So every year the Australian Institute of Marine Science publishes statistics on the amount of coral on the reef. And the last one, which came out in the middle of 2022, we've got record high coral, never more coral. But of course, they look on all the bad parts of it. They say, oh, it's a different type of coral. Well, it's the fast-growing, fragile coral. So they'll always try to see bad news. And also they're very embarrassed by the fact that essentially, the reef is in good condition. But the most important thing is it proved what I said, that there was a quality assurance problem. They said a huge amount of coral died due to the bleaching events in 2016, 17, 2020 and 2022. And then we got record high coral cover. So they must have been wrong. It proves without any doubt that they were wrong, that a lot of coral died. And it proved what I said. There's a quality assurance problem, but they're never going to admit it. They will never admit that. We're going to have to more or less have a rejuvenation of these science institutions to get a proper debate in there before there'll be a proper balance going on in the institutions.